Here in France, our business editor Stephen Carroll joins us. Hello, Stephen. Manuel Valls has some pretty steep economic challenges to deal with.
Yeah, he does. And Francois Hollande identified two key ones of those during his address to the nation on Monday night. Rising taxes that are too high and unemployment that's too high. This government really doesn't have a very happy record when it comes to unemployment. The number of people out of work hit a record high for the third consecutive month in February. There are now over 3.3 million people out of work here in France. The unemployment rate, a slightly different measure, is at 10.2%. There are now more than 420,000 more people out of work now than there were when Francois Hollande came to power back in May 2012. On top of that, economists are saying the jobs that are being created are state-supported ones. It's not real job growth. These are artificial jobs being created by the government, and that's something that won't last.
But there isn't much financial room for manoeuvre for the government.
No, indeed. In fact, like most European countries, France does spend more than it takes in. We heard in figures released on Monday, the budget deficit for France is 4.3% in 2013. Now, under EU rules, France has to bring that down under 3%. It had been given 2 extra years to do so until 2015. The latest forecast, though, from the European Commission showing that won't happen either. It's forecast to actually be at 3.9% in 2015. That will be a really big challenge ahead for the new government under Manuel Valls. One of the big issues to tackle is public spending. Public spending in France reached 57% of GDP last year, one of the highest levels in Europe. And they're going to have to make massive cuts on that. Francois Hollande has already said that he will cut 50 billion euros from public spending by 2017. Deciding where that axe is going to fall is going to be one of the really big challenges facing Manuel Valls.
So what's the plan then, Stephen?
2 words: responsibility and solidarity. The responsibility pact, this job creation pact announced by Francois Hollande at the new year, was his plan to make the private sector create jobs. It was going to be a reduction of 30 billion euros in payroll charges for employers. Now, unfortunately, much progress hasn't been made on that. The employers' groups are refusing to commit to a target of job creation. All but one of the unions has refused to sign up to the pact. Still some blockage, I suppose, in that system as they figure out the details of it. The opposition, of course, pouncing on that as a lack of progress. The other element is what was announced in his speech last night. This is a new solidarity pact. This is a sweetener for voters. He's going to reduce taxes while placing extra priority on education and social security. The question is, how is he going to do that? There's no money in the kitty. He's going to have to find that money somewhere. He says he won't raise taxes further. That's going to mean more cuts.
OK, and Florence Villeneuve will be with us in just a few minutes, giving us some of the political reaction to Manuel Valls' appointment in the newspapers. But let's turn to some other business news now, Stephen, and a key tax rise taking effect in Japan today.
Yeah, that's right. It's the first rise in sales tax, in fact, in 17 years in Japan. It's going to go up from 5 to 8% on almost the totality of goods. It's the latest economic measure adopted by the Japanese government under Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, aimed at dragging the world's third largest economy out of a spiral of falling prices and sluggish economic growth. And earlier we spoke to our correspondent Justin McCurry, who's in the Japanese city of Osaka. He says it's a risky move for the government there.
This has come at a really bad time for Shinzo Abe. In his first 14, 15 months in office, the Japanese economy has shown definite signs of coming back to life. The biggest fear now is that just at this critical time, that a rise in prices, for everything from foods to train fares to just about everything else that Japanese pay for in their daily lives, will spook consumers, and that's going to put pressure on wages, and that Japan is going to miss its target to raise inflation by about 2% over the coming year or so. So it's an incredibly precarious time for Shinzo Abe. He's done well so far, but I think we'd be right in saying this is the biggest obstacle that Abenomics has faced so far.
Can you give us a rundown on the market, Stephen?
It's pretty muted trading, in fact, in Asia today. In Japan, the shares have dipped into the red as consumers get used to that new sales tax. Just slightly down on the Nikkei in Tokyo, but the only Asian market, in fact, trading in the red today. In China, 2 surveys showing continuing weakening in the manufacturing sector there, not causing too much worries there in the stock market, though. Both the Hang Seng in Hong Kong and the Shanghai Composite trading in the green.
And finally, users of the dating website OKCupid might find an unusual message facing them when they log on today.
Yeah, this is the latest response to the appointment of a man called Brendan Eich to be chief executive of the web firm Mozilla, which creates the browser Firefox. Now, this was over Eich's support of a law to outlaw gay marriage in California. So from Monday, users of OKCupid who access the site through Firefox were getting this message that you can see now. It's from OKCupid. They say that because Brendan Eich opposes equal rights for gay couples, they would prefer that users don't use Mozilla to access their website. Now, OKCupid gets around 3 billion page views per month, around 12% of which come from Firefox users, so around 300 million of those. They're not the only ones that have been upset by Brendan Eich's appointment. 6 board members of Mozilla have resigned as a result of his appointment, and a story that I'm sure we're going to hear plenty more about as the time goes on.
Okay, interesting development there. Stephen Carroll, thank you very much for that roundup of the business news, and of course we'll see you a little later. Now it's time